How powerful people really connect. Machiavelli's hidden rules. You've been taught that networking is about being nice, collecting business cards, and staying in touch. But that's not how powerful people actually build connections. They follow a different set of rules, rules that Niccolò Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago, but most people today completely miss. Today, I'm taking you deep into the psychology of power and influence. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how the most connected people in any field operate, and more importantly, how you can apply these principles starting today. Before we dive in, let's clear something up. When most people hear Machiavelli, they think villain, they think ruthless, they think evil. But that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what Machiavelli actually taught. Machiavelli wasn't a philosopher telling us how the world should be. He was a political analyst showing us how the world actually is. He spent years in the courts of Florence, watching power players up close, seeing what worked and what didn't. And what he discovered was that the official rules of networking, the ones everyone talks about publicly, aren't the real rules that powerful people follow privately. Think of it this way. There's the Disney version of networking: be kind, be authentic, help everyone, and success will follow. And then there's the reality that Machiavelli documented: strategic, calculated, and based on understanding human nature at its core. Here's the fundamental truth that Machiavelli understood. All relationships, whether personal or professional, exist on a spectrum of power. Someone always has more leverage, more options, more value to offer. And the people who pretend this isn't true, they're the ones who get blindsided when relationships don't work out the way they expected. Powerful connectors don't pretend everyone is equal. They understand the dynamics at play, and they navigate them consciously. This doesn't make them manipulative, it makes them realistic. And that realism is what allows them to build connections that actually last and deliver results. Now, let's break down the 7 hidden rules that powerful people use, starting with the most counterintuitive one. Rule number 1, create strategic dependence, not just goodwill. Here's what most networking advice tells you. Provide value, be helpful, be generous. And yes, that's important, but it's incomplete. Because if you're just one of many people who can provide that value, you're forgettable, you're replaceable. Machiavelli observed that the strongest alliances aren't built on friendship, they're built on mutual necessity. When someone needs you for something they can't easily get elsewhere, you become irreplaceable. You move from being a nice contact to being an essential connection. Let me give you a concrete example. Say you're in marketing. You could be helpful by sharing general marketing tips. Anyone can do that. But if you develop deep expertise in a specific niche, let's say conversion rate optimization for SaaS companies in the healthcare sector, suddenly you're not just helpful, you're the person for that specific problem. The key is identifying what unique value you can offer that creates a dependency relationship. This could be specialized knowledge, access to a specific network, a rare skill set, or even just being the person who can navigate a complex system that others find confusing. Think about the most powerful people you know. They're not powerful because they're nice to everyone. They're powerful because they control access to something valuable, and they're strategic about how they provide that access. Rule number 2, maintain the appearance of equality while building asymmetric relationships. This is where Machiavelli's understanding of human psychology becomes brilliant. He observed that people hate feeling inferior or indebted. When someone feels like they're the weaker party in a relationship, resentment builds, and resentment destroys alliances faster than anything else. So here's what powerful connectors do. Even when they're clearly the one offering more value, they frame the relationship as mutual. They find something, anything, that the other person brings to the table, and they emphasize it. This preserves the other person's dignity and keeps the relationship comfortable.
I call this the equality illusion. It's when someone says, let's help each other out, even though you both know one person is getting more from the arrangement. But by framing it as reciprocal, nobody feels like a charity case. Here's a real-world example. A senior executive takes coffee meetings with junior people in their industry. The junior person is clearly getting more value. They're getting mentorship, advice, and access to a powerful network. But notice how the executive frames it. They'll say things like, I love hearing fresh perspectives from people closer to the front lines, or you're helping me stay connected to what's actually happening in the market. Is the junior person really providing equal value? Probably not. But the framing makes the relationship sustainable because nobody feels like they're just taking. This is crucial because the moment someone feels like they owe you everything and can't reciprocate, the relationship becomes awkward. They start avoiding you. They feel guilty. The connection dies. Powerful people prevent this by always finding a way to make others feel valuable, even when the value exchange is clearly asymmetric. Rule number 3. Scarcity creates value. Abundance destroys it. Machiavelli understood something that most people miss. Being too available, too eager, too accessible actually reduces your influence. Why? Because value is largely determined by scarcity. Think about it in economic terms. If something is abundant and easy to get, it's cheap. If it's rare and hard to access, it's expensive. The same principle applies to your time and attention. The most connected people aren't the ones replying to every message instantly. They're not at every networking event. They're not having coffee with everyone who asks. They're selective, and that selectivity makes access to them more valuable. Now, here's the nuance. This doesn't mean being rude or ignoring people. It means being intentional about where you invest your energy. It means having clear criteria for who you engage with and how deeply. When you're always available, you signal that your time isn't valuable. When you're strategic about your accessibility, people respect your boundaries and actually value your attention more when they do get it.
I've seen this play out countless times. The person who responds to every LinkedIn message within 5 minutes, nobody values those conversations. But the person who takes a week to respond and then gives you 30 minutes of focused attention, that interaction feels significant. It feels valuable, and you remember it. This is why powerful people often seem slightly distant or hard to reach. It's not arrogance, it's strategy. They understand that their availability is a resource that needs to be managed carefully. Rule number 4. Give first, but never create obligation. This seems contradictory, so let me explain. Powerful connectors are generous with their help, but they're careful about how they frame it. They give in a way that doesn't make the recipient feel heavily indebted. Machiavelli warned that making people feel like they owe you too much creates resentment rather than loyalty. People don't like feeling obligated. It's uncomfortable. It creates anxiety, and eventually they'll distance themselves from you just to escape that feeling. So here's how sophisticated networkers handle this. They help, but they keep it casual. They don't make a big deal out of what they're doing. They don't constantly remind you of what they've done for you. They give you room to reciprocate naturally, without pressure. Compare these two approaches. Person A helps you land a major client introduction and then regularly mentions it. Remember when I connected you to that client? That worked out well, right? That creates obligation and discomfort. Person B makes the same introduction but downplays it. Happy to help. Let me know how it goes. No pressure, no obligation. Just a clean exchange that leaves room for natural reciprocity later. Which person would you rather stay connected with? Obviously, person B, because they made you feel empowered rather than indebted. Rule number 5. Control information flow strategically. Machiavelli spent a lot of time discussing how information is power, and in networking, this couldn't be more true.
The most connected people are often the most connected precisely because they sit at the intersection of information flows.
They know what's happening in multiple circles. They hear things early. They can connect dots that others can't because they have access to information from different sources, and they're strategic about what they share and when. This doesn't mean being secretive or withholding. It means being thoughtful about information as a resource. When you know something valuable, sharing it immediately with everyone dilutes its value. But sharing it strategically with the right person at the right time, that creates significant value. Think about industry gossip, job opportunities, market insights, strategic moves that companies are planning. If you're plugged into these information networks and you're thoughtful about how you share what you become incredibly valuable to your network. The key is becoming a trusted node in information networks. People share sensitive information with you because they know you'll handle it appropriately. And because you have access to good information, you can provide value to others in your network at crucial moments. Rule number 6. Build relationships before you need them. Machiavelli emphasized that timing is everything, and one of the biggest mistakes people make in networking is only reaching out when they need something. This is transparent, and it doesn't work. Powerful people play the long game. They invest in relationships years before they might need anything from them. They stay in touch without any immediate agenda. They help others when there's no obvious benefit to themselves. Why? Because when you eventually do need something, you're not making a cold call. You're reaching out to someone you have a real relationship with, someone who remembers that you've been a consistent presence, not just someone who appears when you want something. This is why the most connected people often seem to have impossibly good luck. They always know someone who can help with whatever they need. But it's not luck, it's preparation. It's years of relationship building that finally pays off in a moment that looks effortless from the outside. Rule number 7. Know when to walk away. This is the rule most people can't bring themselves to follow. But Machiavelli was clear that sometimes the best strategic move is to end a relationship that's no longer serving you. Not every connection deserves to be maintained. Some relationships are energy drains. Some people are takers who never reciprocate. Some connections made sense at one point in your life, but no longer align with where you're going. Powerful people are ruthless about pruning their networks, not in a mean way, but in a strategic way. They let relationships naturally fade when they're no longer mutually beneficial. They redirect their energy toward connections that actually matter. This is hard because we're taught that loyalty is always good and that walking away from relationships is somehow wrong. But the truth is, your time and energy are finite. Every relationship you maintain is energy you're not investing somewhere else. And powerful people understand this trade-off viscerally. So there you have it, 7 hidden rules that powerful people use to build real influence. Let me recap quickly. Create strategic dependence, maintain the appearance of equality, use scarcity strategically, give without creating obligation, control information flow, play the long game, and know when to walk away. Now, here's the thing. Some of you might feel uncomfortable with this framework. It might seem calculated or manipulative, and I get that. But here's what I want you to understand. These dynamics exist whether you acknowledge them or not. Power, leverage, value exchange, these are operating in every relationship you have. The question isn't whether these dynamics exist. They do. The question is whether you're going to navigate them consciously and strategically, or whether you're going to pretend they don't exist and then wonder why your networking efforts don't produce results. Machiavelli wasn't teaching people to be evil, he was teaching them to be effective, and there's a big difference. If this video changed how you think about networking and influence, let me know in the comments. And if you want more content on power dynamics that actually work in the real world, subscribe because we're going deep on this channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.